Good afternoon, folks. I'm Mark Evanier, and welcome to our 6th Cartoon Voice Panel online. A little later, I'll be telling you about the next one we're going to do, which will be a little different. But this one is going to be just as good as the other ones. In fact, better. This is going to be the best one we've ever had, because look at the people we've got here today. Let me introduce them to you now. I'm in box number 1. In box number 2 is Kari Wahlgren. In box number 3 is J.P. Karliak. In box number 4 is Mr. Burton. In box number 5 is Kimberly Brooks. And an ETA is just coming in from Jon Bailey, who will be joining us momentarily. Thank you all for being here and doing this. You all look wonderful. You're all in your own home recording studios, safe from demons and horrible things that are going on right now. I'm going to ask each of you in turn to tell us the characters you've done that people know you for the best, the most recent things you've done, things that they've heard you on. Please don't have to consult your IMDb, but you can if you want to. I always preface this by pointing out that at any given time, most cartoon voice actors are under what they call NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. They've done a show or a video game, and the producers don't want them talking about it until the producers are ready to announce it. Now, by a show of hands, how many of you are currently under an NDA for something you've done? See, there you go. Kari is under 10 NDAs.
I think so.
All right. Keeping in mind that you can't talk about those things, Kari, where have people heard you out lately?
Well, hey, everybody tuning in. Thanks for being here. My name's Kari. The first kind of big anime role that I did was Haruko in FLCL, which people still seem to know a lot on the convention circuit. And I did Saber in the Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero series, Samurai Champloo, I did Fu. And then when you get over to more the Western animation, I played Tigress in Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness. I played Jessica and Rick's spaceship on Rick and Morty. I played Zatanna in DC Superhero Girls, and I did Starfire in the Justice League Teen Titans movie crossover.
Yeah, I think people would like to hear you do a few of these characters. Would you favor us with
it? Well, Tigress is very much Poe. You have to have the Furious Five. Go to the Jade Palace. He's eating dumplings. And my lovely co-star, J.P. Karliak, we are both on Boss Baby, which I'm sure he'll tell you more about that. But I'm Marcia Crinkle on Boss Baby, and that's also a very fun one. So I know. So hi, thanks for tuning in. I'm Marcia Crinkle.
Okay, Mr. Karliak, where have we heard you lately? Boss Baby for one thing.
Boss Baby for one. The Boss. It's Italian silk, you savage. Boss Baby on Netflix. I'm also I was the Tin Man on Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz with Kari as Dorothy. The Tin Man. He's such a lovely character. I was Wile E. Coyote Super Genius on the new Looney Tunes on Boomerang, and one of the more recent ones is one of my first toe dips into anime. I was Kozo Fuyutsuki in the Netflix dub of Neon Genesis Evangelion. So, Evangelion.
Thank you. Now let's welcome Kari Burton. No, Kari's back here. Let's welcome Jon Bailey, whose mic is muted.
Unmute.
John, can you unmute your mic?
Just while everybody's talking.
Thank you for joining us. You had a good reason. We don't have to go into it, but you had a good. I know you have a good reason for this. You would never miss a session in your life. I'm sure.
Absolutely not.
Before we get to the next tier here, Disney in you, Amen, says, "Happy belated Kari. May your heart be your guiding key," because it was Kari's birthday the other day.
Yes.
And today is Kimberly's birthday.
Yes.
Well, happy mutual.
Happy Leo. Happy Leo.
Yes.
Yes. Apparently, everyone in this zodiac sign becomes a voice actor. Yes, obviously.
They say it has something to do with it that Leos are natural performers.
Yeah. I agree.
Kari, tell these people where they've heard your voice in the last few years. Let's start with
Oh,
Disneyland.
God.
Let's start with Disneyland.
Yes. Please keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside while the tram is moving.
Wow. Oh my God. Love it.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things people know me for. But let's see. At Disneyland, I am the the faux freeze for the Nightmare Before Christmas Haunted Mansion
Oh
holidays.
my God.
Oh,
Let's see.
That's
My idol, Paul Frees. Let's see. At the parks, and boy, I'm all over the world too. I've been doing this since 1973. So,
Okay,
uh,
Corey, you've done a lot of Disney characters. You've been doing Ludwig von Drake for a
that's
while.
right. Another Paul Frees voice that I can ad lib in because, we did a lot of press events. And what an event that was. I surprised them with things that were, a little bit off color television because I invented
Nice.
color television.
And you do Captain Hook for them.
That's right. My original emulation of the great Hans Conried. And I've been Captain Hook since 78, I think.
Nice.
Corey, yesterday when we were talking, you did the opening for Fractured Flickers for me. Would you do the opening? Hans Conried hosting just for me.
Oh, yes. Good evening and a hearty good wishes from Fractured Flickers. Brought to you by the makers of Mistakes.
That's awesome.
Oh man.
You're on the Superman show. You do Brainiac.
That's right.
For those, do you
Brainiac,
remember?
which is based on the narration from The Outer Limits by Vic Perrin, a fantastic character actor and radio actor.
Okay.
Which is really kind of my natural voice, speaking quietly and creepily, and my natural voice does tend to be a little creepy.
And which are you, Chip or Dale?
I'm Dale. He's the clown. And of course, that is sped up. Now they do it digitally. Not the same as speeding up a tape, but we work with what we have these days. Software. The bane of my existence.
That's great. We'll do this in order of arrival.
And
Kimberly.
the Star Wars. I have to mention Count Dooku, played by the late Christopher Lee, and one of my favorite characters of all time is Cad Bane, who is a Duro, and that is a little bit processed, but it's a combination of a spaghetti western actor, bounty hunter, and Peter Lorre. And what's the other famous?
Shockwave and Megatron.
Oh
We
yes,
just
the
have here.
Transformers. A lot of Transformers.
He's also
Anyway,
Shockwave, Megatron, and Ratchet in Transformers Animated.
Ratchet, which is based on Rip Torn, which I do a lot of.
Nice.
See, now I want to hear you doing Rip Torn lines from R-rated movies as Ratchet.
Oh man, yeah, no, this I guess this is PG, so I better hold my tongue.
Okay, we'll be back to Corey in a minute. Kimberly,
Yeah.
Where have they heard you lately?
Well, with Kari on DC Superhero Girls, I am Bumblebee, and that's a great show. I love working on that.
And how does Bumblebee sound?
She kind of sounds a little bit like me, just like she's chill, she's cool, she's getting a lot more confident. Wouldn't you say, Kari?
Oh yeah. She was very, very shy, and now she's
very shy, but she's awesome. I love doing Bumblebee. Also on Voltron, Princess Allura, which was I know, so much fun. So such a great cast to work with too. Also on Steven Universe, I voiced
Jasper, and she just really wants to pound your face in. That's basically her whole goal. And so that's
Kimberly, we have a question here. Hey, Mark, I have a question for Kimberly Brooks, the voice of Jasper from Steven Universe. I just wanted to say, how is she doing after Steven left?
You know what? I miss the kid. I really miss him. I wanted to pound his face in at first, but I miss the kid. I'm okay. I'm doing all right.
Yeah, she's very angry, but it's fun. It's a character that lets me get that out. I was also Buena Girl on Mucha Lucha, which is way back in the day. And that was really fun. That was back when Warner Brothers, remember Warner Brothers had their own recording studio over, it was like in the mall.
Yep.
In the Galleria, back in those days.
Yes.
That was really fun.
We did Corey and I did a show over there. We did Legion Superheroes.
There was
I
some
used
great
to,
stuff
I
out
used
of
to
there.
hang out in the lobby and chat with Tim Curry.
Oh,
Oh,
the Andrea Romano days, back in those days.
Yeah.
I was also this random character that I always get asked to do in Gravity Falls. I don't know what her name is. She was a talk show host, but why are you acting so cray? I don't know what that was, but people love that one.
We love Gravity Falls.
I love her. I love her.
Kind of crazy. I'm on South Park, and one of my characters that I do is classy with an I, because she classy. That's another character, but you said this is a PG show, right? And Classy never did anything below R, so I can't really quote anything from her.
I didn't say this was a PG show.
Uh-oh.
Classy, you just look her up.
The game has changed.
Yes. I can
Exactly.
talk about Boondocks and Black Dynamite.
Thank you, Kimberly. We'll come back to you.
Okay.
Before we go to John, let me tell the folks in the chat room, the other people, I'm the only one who can see what you're typing right now, and I will relay your questions to these people later in the show. Hold your questions till later so they don't scroll off completely here. I want to go through a certain sequence here. And we got to get to John, who's got an amazing array of credits in very little time. I don't know too many people who have come into this business and racked up as many credits as quickly as Jon Bailey has. He's an amazing repertoire. John, favor us with a few of your main.
I'm still pretty green to this as opposed to everybody else. I've been at this for 12 years now, but I've got a handful of anime credits. Since this is not a PG thing, Backstreet Girls, kids don't watch that, but it's hilarious. I play the father of someone who recently underwent a change. He used to be in the Yakuza hitman, but now he's a teenage pop star singer girl. And I play his father, who's also going into transition, as well as their former hitman boss and a couple other characters. This is a really odd show. Glitter Force Doki Doki with Debbie Derryberry and a few other people, and a few other shows like that. I can't remember all the titles. Sorry, guys. More recently, worked on a pilot for something called Space Junkies with Debbie and Daniel Ross, a few other people, and Bumblebee movie. I filled in the great shoes of Corey Burton as Shockwave, which is my all-time favorite character, and Soundwave. And I'm basically a vocal stunt double for Peter Cullen for things that he either just cannot do or will not do. And I never replace an actor. I'm just like, well, unless they don't want it, I'll just fill in the gap until he does.
Now someone's going to ask this if I don't. Is it possible here to do dueling shockwaves?
Well, I think
I know the voice is filtered.
They tend to change the spec for each incarnation of the show. I was, the original G1, I guess they call it. And that was based on the great David Warner's Master Control Program.
Correct.
Sark from Tron. And I did I was fresh off doing the first, as far as I know, the first arcade game with a vocal soundtrack, which was like, I don't know, 8-bit or 4-bit or something. And I also did a loop line in Tron for David Warner. and I loved his voice. And when they had auditions for Transformers, they said, this guy, a lonely outpost, the robotic, cold artificial intelligence, and I just thought, David Warner. He always sounds so detached and sad.
Oh wow.
And he has an excellent villain voice. I actually told that entire story because I'm so familiar with that character in your work. I told that to Travis Knight, the director of Bumblebee. He's like, "Oh man, that's so cool! I didn't know that."
Yeah, I got to work with him once, and he was so nice. That was one of those
He's
cases
nice.
where
He sounds so scary.
not really, no, he's lovely. But that was one of those cases where I was like, I'm your biggest fan. I don't know what to say. Oh, you did an excellent British accent. You sounded just like a Londoner. Oh my God. Okay, I can die now.
John, you got anybody else you want to mention right now? We're going to go through a lot of voices before we're done.
I'm the voice of Honest Trailers, which is a huge online thing. I do tons of ADR. I fill in for Ryan Reynolds. I worked on Detective Pikachu, which was really cool, with Fred Tatasciore and a few other CSDs like Kari here. I really, Kimberly, are you with us too? Are you assessed?
No.
Anyways, so yeah, I've just kind of, and I fill in for TJ Miller for Underwater, which is actually a pretty decent horror movie. Came out in January before lockdown happened, and I got an awesome cartoon that I can't talk about because it comes out later this year. And tons of games, a lot of God of War 4 and really cool titles that I've been honored to work with. XCOM, I'm basically just a more robotic Optimus Prime through XCOM, telling people how badly they play the game. We're sorry, Commander. We regret to inform you. In fact, the guy at 2K used to have me do these fake "you're fired" emails for his staff every year. It was like, we regret to inform you that you are no longer employed at 2K Games, Commander.
Nice. Oh.
He doesn't work there anymore, so I'm allowed to say that.
Nice.
All right, now, folks in the chat room, it's my turn to ask questions. Now, we'll get to your questions later. Just save your questions, please. I'd like each person here to tell me a voice job they had. This does not have to be a cartoon, that we didn't know you did. Something where you looped somebody else, a commercial, something obscure that I want you to surprise these people, and even the people who think they know your whole careers, was to say, I didn't know he did that. I didn't know she did that. Kari looks stumped completely.
So many.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Corey. Many. I'm going to go to Corey, who's got 1,000 of them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Corey,
I know. I'm trying to think.
Who are some people you've looped? Actors you've looped in movies and dubbed for?
Oh my God! I once did Patrick McNee in like a Love Boat special or something.
Oh God!
Nice.
Right,
Corey,
did I just screw up the name? I'm dyslexic with names.
Patrick, you're not thinking of Patrick. Well, there's about 19 Patricks.
And Patrick McGowan, who I love.
Yeah. Are you, Corey? Are you in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Are you in there someplace? What are you doing there?
Yeah. I opened the picture. Yes.
Cool.
Bounty Law.
I looped for Leo.
Bounty Law. Okay.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Basically, just a George Bush
Law.
impression.
And you did the opening line in the movie of Haunted Mansion, didn't you? Also.
Yeah, as Orson Welles was under protest. I firmly believe that the ghost host voice only lives in that building, and I do not believe it should be heard outside of that attraction because it's a part of the building. It's the magic,
Part of the furniture.
and it's the greatest piece of narration ever recorded because it has everything, and by the greatest voice actor,
Let's talk about Mr. Freeze for a second here while we're on the subject here. This is a picture of Paul Freeze, who was one of the most amazing voice actors who ever lived. And you've doubled for him in other shows. You on some of the Jay Ward projects, you doubled for him, right? You did. You've done Boris Badenoff. You've done.
I did maybe 3 seconds of Badenov. That was usually covered by somebody else. Nobody has ever really matched. Um, uh, um, oh, Chait is pretty darn close.
Hmm.
Keith Scott usually does Boris, I think, these days.
Yeah.
But it's bad enough. But that was one I never quite had the stuff for.
You dubbed some of Bill Scott's, doubled some of Bill Scott's characters and some of Hans Conried's, of course.
Oh yeah,
And-
I started with Disney TV animation when Bill Scott suddenly passed, and everybody, including Bill, knew that I could do an awful lot of Bill Scott characters, and so I was Gruffy Gummy in the Gummy Bears, and Toad what? Toady.
I cast Bill Scott in a show called The Wuzzles.
I remember the Wuzzles.
That I started.
I had a Wuzzle.
Yeah,
The
for
Wuzzle.
Disney, and I think I gave Bill his very first non-J Ward voice gig.
Wow.
Bill was the voice of Bullwinkle and Dudley Do-Right and
course.
Mr. Peabody, the main characters on all the J Ward, and he was also the head writer and producer of the show. And I voice directed a special for NBC one time, and they let me hire anybody I wanted. So I hired Dawes Butler, June Foray, Bill Scott, Howie Morris, Frank Welker, Marvin Kaplan, Peter
Wow.
Cullen.
Wow.
It was like Tress McNeil was in it. Everybody I ever wanted to hire, we put in one cartoon, and it was Bill's first. I kept hiring Bill on other shows. Nobody else was hiring him. It was a shame. He was a wonderfully funny, talented man. And you've done Bullwinkle a few times, and
Yes,
this is
I have.
Bullwinkle.
Hello there. Today we have a special guest, Mr. Peter Piker. Mr. Piker is the star of the well-known famous poem, Peter Piker picked a pick of pimple peppers. That's pickle. Oh,
Nice.
that's what it said, pimpled. Brother. The other voice was Freeze.
Amazing.
He just did Bill
It goes
Scott and
on.
Paul Freeze at the same time.
That's
All right.
amazing.
Well, I used to do Hook and Smee together. But they
Smee
decided.
was a man named Bill Thompson,
That's
who
right.
some people know as Droopy and
I've
Touche
done Droopy.
Turtle.
Yeah.
Let's have some Droopy.
Hello, folks. I don't know what to say. It's a hard life.
Okay. Who else has looped somebody here? Dubbed somebody else? John?
Quite a few. I guess the ones that are the most fun to mention were for Detective Pikachu. There's a scene in the middle where he has to fight against another character, and he's vastly outmatched. He doesn't know how to use any of his powers yet, so he tries to do his cutesy Pika Pika voice. And they used me for the temp, but they thought mine was so much funnier than Ryan Reynolds was that they left it in the film.
Oh my gosh.
If you watch Detective Pikachu when he's about to get creamed by Charizard, that's me going Pika Pika.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. And the other one that was a lot of fun, I filled in for Christoph Waltz for a movie called Epic that takes place in the forest. It's very Fern Gully. And apparently he does not do screams. So they told me it was not going to be in the film. And they had to change a line of dialogue from, you know him, he's always the kind of guy you wanted to kill. And they changed kill to destroy because it was a kid's movie. And so I did, he's always that kind of guy that you've always wanted to destroy. And then I did this crazy war cry. Ah! And then we watched the film. I heard it. I was like, holy crap. It wasn't even credited. They ended up using it in the film anyway. And I was like, well, that's kind of cool. I didn't even.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Wow.
Years ago, I was seeing a movie with a lady friend of mine, and in the middle of the movie, I heard a creature voice, and I whispered to her, "That's Welker. That's Frank
Yeah.
Welker." I recognize.
I can't watch a movie without hearing him somewhere.
I ran to Frank. I said, "Hey, we heard you in that movie." He said, "Oh, I'm not in that movie." I said, "Yes, you're in that movie." He said, "No, they had me come in and read for it, but I didn't get it." And I said, "I think it would be worth your while to go see that movie, Frank."
That's happened to me a few times too.
Saw it,
Yeah.
And his agent got him an awful lot of money for that.
Good for
Nice.
them.
Nice.
Because Frank needs the work, right? You know.
He does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got tons of starving children in Afghanistan.
Yes. Kari told me a funny story yesterday about Scatman Crothers. Could you tell us that again?
Yeah. When we were doing, it was Transformers or GI Joe. I think it was Transformers. And I got to know Scatman very well. Anyway, he was up at the mic working and doing his thing, sound wave or what was he?
He was doing jazz, man.
Jazz, that's right. Yeah, I
Like the robot turkeys.
Yeah. Anyway, so he was finishing up and then, all right, is that everything? Yeah, you can go now, Scat. And he would, wave. All right, great working with all you white people. And then we heard, oh, Wally, and Wally was looking down. Yeah. Did we forget a line? I just wanted to say, and then we looked up, and it was Frank Welker. Scatman was already down, going on his way to his
that's
car.
funny.
Oh, brilliant.
But his voice stayed in the room, and we all, you couldn't tell the difference.
That's hysterical.
Yeah.
He used to.
Frank would just come in and vacuum up any stray voices in the room and add them to his repertoire.
He used to make this noise with his leather shoe and make the engineer think that there was some kind of problem with the microphone.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
tell us some other things you've done with your voices besides cartoons. Voiceover, commercial, radio spots. Anything else anybody got? Theme park.
I'm one of the English park voices for Shanghai Disneyland.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Me too.
Have yet to go and hear it, but one day.
will.
Yeah, I know specifically the one that I did was the Tarzan stunt spectacular thing, but that's the only one I know officially. Because you have to go on YouTube and find the people that have gone through the park and just listen carefully. Did they just walk by a speaker that's my voice? No idea.
Cipher it.
When I took a lady friend of mine to Epcot years ago, it was like the voice tour. She had me identify every voice recorded. I'm sitting there going, "That's Chuck McCann. Oh, that's John Stevens." For the whole thing here. Now, Kari, was it Epcot?
Yeah.
You did that Walter
Oh
Cronkite?
yeah. The Walter Cronkite. There. I was going to say one of my favorite little bits, just because I love those kinds of newsman voices. I was the newsman in Ellen's Energy Adventure in Epcot. KNRG News Time. Just past the Pleistocene, or something like that. Anyway, but yes. So the Disney MGM Studios animation tour, they had me initially come in to do the scratch tracks for the animatics for Walter Cronkite and Robin Williams. So I, over the course of, I don't know, a year or two, I'd come in and I'd do my Walter Cronkite and try to sound like Robin. And,
nice.
And then, so the producer, who I'd known already for many years, Bob Rogers, great guy. He invited me to the shoot they were doing with Walter and Robin. He said, "Oh, why don't you come and you can be an extra?" Okay. Now I had no idea when I walked on set. It was in Culver City, I guess, Hollywood. I don't know. So, and it's like, oh, this is cool. I get to watch them shoot the actual piece, and Bob Rogers is standing with Robin Williams and Walter Cronkite. And he starts waving to me. He says, "Hey, come on over here. Walter is dying to meet you. He's been listening to your impression of him for 2 months now. Like,
Nice.
oh God, oh God, oh God. And the story, he was just fantastic. And he says, well, very nice to meet you, young man. You sounded exactly like me. I had to ask, Bets, I don't remember doing that. No, that's a sound alike, Walter. Wow. And you sounded so much like me.
Man.
I don't know why I even bothered showing up.
That's funny.
Fantastic.
And then I spent the rest of the day, in between scenes and setups, because Walter didn't have that much to do, and Robin was coming up with ad libs for his scene, for their scenes together. But Walter was working off a script, and we talked about old radio and broadcasting, and of course Walter loved to tell silly jokes from vaudeville and stuff. And, he wanted to be a song and dance man, Cronkite.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is a good place for me to tell a story that involves Corey. When I grew up, my hero was a man named Stan Freberg. We all loved Stan Freberg. Stan Freberg, who looked an awful lot like this. Very, very brilliant man.
Stan.
And I bought his record, Stan Freberg Presents the United States, Volume 1, around 1962, at a record shop on Westwood Boulevard in West Los Angeles. And I loved it. If you have never heard this record, it is one of the best places to learn about voice acting. It's not cartoon voicing, but it might as well be. It's a lot of people who did cartoon voices. And Stan, of course, and it's a wonderful, wonderful record. I have a feeling Corey has it memorized.
Oh yeah. Well, it's a full, really Broadway musical done for audio. They even performed and recorded it on a big stage. I don't know where, but and the orchestrations, Billy May and oh my God.
Yeah, it's just wonderful. So I went back to this record shop every week and said, is Volume 2 in yet? Is Volume 2 in yet? And waiting and waiting. And eventually I was a pest. I'd walk in the door and they go, there's no Volume 2 yet. Go out. So that record shop was a couple of years later was torn down. They built on that land a restaurant called Junior's Delicatessen. This is on Westwood near Pico. Some of you were probably there. It just closed down recently. Lovely place we all went to.
Yeah, my dad used to deliver the real McCoy and Hebrew National stuff to them.
we ate those hot dogs, yes.
Yeah.
So one day, 34 years after Stan Freberg Presents the United States of America had come out, Stan asked me to meet with him at Junior's Delicatessen for lunch. I went over, and on the same piece of real estate where I bought Volume 1, he asked me to co-produce Volume 2 with him.
Oh,
Same piece of real estate land. So
that's great.
one of the many problems he had was that Paul Frees had narrated the first volume, and Paul was gone. And he said, I want a consistent narrator. And I don't think I can find anyone who can do a really good sound-alike of Paul Frees. I said, I've got the guy. He said, are you sure? And I said, yes, he's a fellow named Corey Burton. He will be fine. And Stan said, okay, if you say so. And then Stan would call me. Stan was a brilliant man, but he was very nervous about everything. And he'd call me every couple of nights saying, are you sure your guy can do Paul Frees well enough? I said, yes, trust me. I finally said, look, if you're not happy with what he does, I will pay for somebody else to come in and redo it. Just stop worrying. So the day came, we were doing another show, and Stan was on it, and I brought Corey in for that show, and I introduced him. I said, Stan, this is Corey Burton. He is the guy who will do the Paul Frees for you. And he looked at Corey, and Corey, this was like 20 years ago, I think, and Corey looked 9 years old back then, and he did not look like the kind of person out of whom a voice with that power and authority could come. And Stan was really skeptical. So Corey goes in the booth, and we had, of course, a little reference track of Paul there. And Kari starts reading the copy, and over the loudspeaker, we hear Kari doing,
Stan Freberg modestly presents the United States of America.
and I'm,
Chapter two.
yeah, well, he didn't do the chapter 2 part yet. And I turned to Stan, waiting for him to go, my God, you're right, he's perfect. And he went, okay, now let me hear him. I said, that's him. He
Oh,
says, no, that's the reference track of Paul. That's Paul. I know Paul Frees. I said, no, it isn't. Kari, keep reading. And Kari read till he got to volume 2, and he read the other new copy for there. And Stan did a medley of Tex Avery takes, all in
Nice.
sequence, and he just couldn't believe it. And Kari made me look very good that day. I was very, very, very proud of that. And then we did a tribute to Stan just a few months before he passed away at the Egyptian Theater, and I got Kari to come in and do Paul introducing the evening and introducing the moderator, who was Harry Shearer, and we interspersed some of Kari's lines with some of Paul's. We had used a couple real Paul lines. We used a couple of Kari lines. And I was sitting with Harry Shearer as he was hearing it for the first time at the event. And he's saying to me, is that Paul? No, that's not Paul. Is that Paul? Is that, and he insisted I introduce him to the guy who did the uncanny Paul Freeze.
Nice.
Well, that was very flattering. I mean, I had met Harry long time ago, doing an American version of the British series Spitting Images, and he all had been lovely. Yeah, Harry, a brilliant talent, multifaceted talent himself.
Okay.
Going back to those jobs that blew my mind. Finding out that, I don't know what side of the screen, finding out that Kari was the voice of the Machete trailers blew my mind. I was like, that can't be Kari Burton.
That turned into a whole regular gig for me because I am currently, clear my voice a little bit. I'm Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse announcer voice for the LA Network.
Oh,
So
very cool.
I do that for it when it gets released on digital and Blu-ray.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's one of the most popular requests I get is, oh, can you do the Grindhouse thing for us?
Really?
So
I didn't even know until I found out. I was like, what?
A lot of fun stuff. It's so easy. Although I use, let's see if you can see it. I use this Sennheiser dynamic mic, which really changes that sawtooth texture into a full voice because it's as they say, a false voice. It's not a real voice. So if you do that into say the type of microphone that Kimberly is on, it just sounds like a guy on the toilet. But if you use the proper microphone that takes that texture and turns it into a full voice. I'm a freak about microphones anyway.
How many do you have? How many microphones do you
There's a
use?
dozen right here.
Wow.
I love my ribbon mics. But because I have this weird mixed bag full of resonances and vocal profiles. I was once voice printed, and the guy at UCLA who analyzed my voice says, "Did you know you have 5 voice prints?" And I said, "Oh, but my own speaking voice, as you can hear, is boring because it's all of those things together. So all the colors together make gray." But all I need to do is change the placement a little, and it becomes something entirely different. So I can play whatever kind of person. But anyway, the type of microphone has an awful lot to do with how the various vocal timbres are captured sonically, and it makes a big difference. I always boy, I've had some screaming arguments with engineers about, no, I'm using this mic for this character. Oh, this mic is fine. Is it? No, it's not. It won't. It won't. No, it won't sound like the same. And I'll even demonstrate for them. I'll say, let me do this on your mic, and let me do it on the one that I've picked. And it's like, oh, it sounds like a different person. Told you.
Interesting.
I have Asperger's, so I do. So I know these things.
Yeah, Corey's been recording from his house well before there was a pandemic.
Wow.
Oh
And,
God, yeah. 20, 25 years now.
Yeah.
He was born ready.
Yeah.
Nice.
But he's flattered me by coming to some of my sessions to do stuff in person, and it was very nice.
Late always.
A couple. Well, your agent warned me. He said, "Fine."
It's hard to get me out of the house. I don't like being with normal people. just us crazy artists, performers, writers, and and fellow wackos. I'm right at home.
Here.
But
I'm
regular
honored.
people who
I'm
have a
so
regular
touched.
I know.
lifestyle,
I'm so touched. Thank you.
Yeah,
We
well,
great
I've known
company.
you. I won't say anything because you still look 20 years old and gorgeous, baby.
Gosh, well, I hope you're talking to me and not John.
John, I know I've met you.
He
and I
looks
don't
15.
remember when.
I don't
Right.
think we've ever met in person before. I've always wanted to, and then lockdown happened.
Or JP. I was sorry, and I don't think we have met. And
I
Kimberly,
don't believe we have.
I think
We
I've seen
worked
you
on-
around.
We worked on one thing together. Didn't we do something where we had to talk at the same time? Like
Was that
Andrea
was that?
Romano? It was something Warner
with
Brothers.
Andrea. Let's see. I'm trying to think.
We were like it was a
was it
character
like-
that had a male and a female voice, and we overlapped each other. I can't
Was it
remember what it was.
Nico and the Sword of Light, or was it?
I want to
I worked with Andrea on everything.
I know, I love her.
Corey,
Um,
did you do Nico as well?
Yeah.
I did. I guess I
did
didn't realize
some,
that. I did Lyra on that show, so I just
I did some wolves.
okay.
Or
Some wolves.
Jackals. Yes, jackals. They stop.
But Kim, do you remember what that project was? I totally interrupted you.
Oh no, that's okay. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Was
well,
it Teen
but
Titans even maybe?
I don't know
it was
if I've done
something
Teen
around-
Titans. Maybe I have.
I don't remember. I have a
Yeah,
horrible
and
memory.
Justice
But we
League-
did something
yeah,
together. And it
well-
was years ago.
Well, I know. No, it wasn't Lego Star Wars if it was years ago. Because that's just a couple years.
I'm sure someone knows. There's someone out there that knows.
Because
Just
you
This
do
crazy
that
thing
for
called
me.
type
Google
in the
out
little
there.
box.
in your,
and tell.
in your loveliness.
If
Um,
someone in the chat room comes up with it, I'll let you know.
That's right.
Let me ask everybody else here now. I want you to tell me. I want you to name drop. Tell me the name of somebody you worked with in a session back when you used to work with people in sessions. You remember back then, and some of you were really impressed. You worked with. You went out and told people. You went home and said, "You won't believe who was at the next microphone to me. I was so thrilled. I worked with." Who would that be? Somebody. It could be a celebrity or another voice person or Kari. Who have you worked with that impressed you?
Well, okay. I've worked with a number of people. I mean, Alfred Molina was amazing.
Love
Yeah.
him.
J.K. Simmons, who I just think is such an amazing actor. He did an episode of, I think, Life and Times of Tim with me.
And it's the best experience I've ever had.
But I will say, like, one of the times that I was most starstruck, this is Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger. So my very first Disney series that I booked was Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go. And I played Nova, the yellow monkey. And he came in to play one of the villains. And I used to be obsessed with Nightmare on Elm Street when I was a kid. And I was not old enough to watch the movie. So I would sneak over to my neighbor friend's house who had HBO. And we would sneak watching parts of the movie whenever it was on TV and her mom was at work. and then her brother had a Freddy doll, and we would act out Nightmare on Elm Street with our Barbies and a Freddy. So like when I was in the session, so yeah, Barbie died in like just unspeakable ways constantly.
Like such a nice guy.
Why didn't they put that in Toy Story?
And then and of course the ones that were kissing Ken were always the first to go. Always
Yeah, they broke the rule.
Yeah, they broke the. So I remember being in the session with him, and like my inner 7-year-old, like I'm getting giddy just thinking about it, and I was just like trying not to like giggle during the whole session, like. Yeah, and he was playing, like a villain character so he had a little bit of the Freddy thing going on, and yeah, that was just one of my. It just was ridiculous.
I love that.
I was like, I'm not even sneaking over to somebody's house to hear this right now.
Right in front of me.
Right.
JP, did you sneak over to watch some movie you weren't supposed to watch?
Yeah.
I mean, the three earliest, the three movies that solidified and crystallized my sense of humor and who I am as a person are Auntie Mame, Addams Family Values, and Airplane.
Wow.
They're my
That was
earliest
cool.
memories of movies. So yeah, throw those in a blender and
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I got to work with.
That
Luke
explains so
Nielsen
much.
on
I know.
Oh.
Who
that was
who-
lovely.
JP, who have
But-
you worked with that impressed you?
I mean, one of the biggies that comes to mind is Lorraine Newman. She's absolutely, she's one of the people that I miss the most in the booth. Like, because I still see Kari now and then, and I still see a lot of my friends that I love and record in the booth. But Lorraine is beyond talented and so lovely. And working on Wizard of Oz with her as the Wicked Witch, like just her laugh, the laugh was part of it, but the scream, like whenever she would fall out a window or something like that, it was just this blood curdling, hilarious, horrible,
from the depths of the soul, and everybody would everybody would hold it in until she got done with the scream, and then we'd all burst out laughing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a rip. I will say this is not a person I've worked with, but my partner is he teaches at the Orange County School of the Arts and runs their musical theater program. So they have special guests come in. And for some ridiculous reason, they had me moderate a panel, like just a discussion with Donna Murphy, because they were like, oh, well, she's done Tangled and you're a voiceover guy, so talk to her. And I'm like, that's the only animated role that she's done. But
You live in Los Angeles, so-and-so?
yeah, but we did that little Vanity Fair game where it's like I showed a picture and she did a voice. She's crazy good. She did so many stupid voices. They were great.
Nice.
Like I showed her a picture of Madame Medusa from The Rescuers, and she didn't know who it was, but she did this whole sense memory thing where she was smoking and over a telephone and just this raspy voice. I'm like, Donna Murphy. She's one of the ones that nobody knows she's amazing, but she is.
Nice.
Okay. Before we go on here, we have in the chat room, Brandon Diaz keeps asking me over and over the same question. Question for Kari, if she's like Woody or Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story, because like Kari, Woody, and Buzz were my heroes growing up, and they have such good hearts just like Kari.
I would say I'm more of a Woody, just because I'm from Kansas originally. So there's a tiny bit of that, shucks, which also was why it was so cool to get to do the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz cartoon, because that was something that I totally grew up with. And when I moved out to LA, people would always be like, you're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. And it's like, I've never heard that before. And so years later to actually book that role, and then, they put the big mural up on the side of the Warner Brothers building, and JP and I went and we got, pictures with it and stuff. And so that really felt like a full circle moment in my life.
Wow. Okay.
Shucks.
Kimberly, who have you worked with who excited you? Who were you really thrilled to work in the same session with?
Well, you guys mentioned these. You already mentioned Frank Welker, and but one of my first real cool jobs was on Scooby Doo, and it was with the original cast. It was Casey Kasem and Frank. Oh yeah, Frank Welker, and everybody. JB Ward and
BJ Ward.
BJ Ward. Sorry, BJ Ward and
We're all
let's see.
dyslexic.
I know. Thank you. I have that.
We are.
I have it.
I
really
don't talk
bad.
what you're knowing about.
But it was like there, and it was Tim Curry was on that. It was just it was just an amazing.
so cool.
And then Mary Kay Bergman also was on that show. So
Yeah,
that was my intro, and I was working with all these amazing people, and so that was the bar set right there. So
Yeah.
that's pretty. That was just like I didn't say anything the entire session. I was just watching everybody. It was amazing. So that was pretty good. And then I worked with Mark Hamill. I got to work with Mark Hamill on I'm Oracle in the Batman Arkham series, and so I got to see him in the waiting room because in video games you don't really work with the person, but Mark Hamill, that was another one where I was just like,
I was pretty starstruck about that. We've worked together a number of times over the years, and he's
so sweet and
a force.
Yeah.
I've known Mark since I did ADR on Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, be
I
darned.
met him back then, and I had done his voice for the Disney Storyteller record.
I remember those.
And in fact, and my friend, the late Tony Pope, was with us, and Tony was on it, and he said, "Wait, I got a copy in my trunk," and so he gave Mark a copy of our Storyteller record, and Mark said, "Oh, you got to sign this. You got to sign this. Sign it, Luke 2."
Nice. Nice.
And whenever I bump into Mark, he's just the best guy. I love him.
Yeah. I can't think of very many people that have been so generous and embracing of the voiceover community and just the people that work in it and what it's given to his career. And it's
at that
lovely.
time, because I said, I'm a radio actor, and I do I'm just a voice actor. And he said, I would really like to. This was when he was just Luke Skywalker. I would really like to do a lot of voice acting stuff. That's what I really love. But my agent won't let me.
God.
And of course, he ended up being. For
Got a new
agent. Years,
Got a new agent.
Got a new agent, exactly. The agent let him.
Mr. Bailey.
You find one who does, right?
Mr. Bailey, who have you worked with that impressed you a lot?
Yes. So for me, the A-list actors are you all. So the people that I look up to are not the huge movie stars. You guys are the big movie stars to me. So when I went to work in Bumblebee and Steve Bloom and Greg Griffin sat next to me, I was just, even though I've met Steve before and I met Greg, but I've never worked alongside them. And for Steve to be like, man, you're just waiting in the wings, pal. Stuff like that. And I'm just like,
it's like he's here.
Steve. And it's like that because for me, it's always been, one of the few fans that crossed over from a fandom into professionalism. And to get to that point where you walk into a studio and you go to voice casters and Tom Kenny looks like, "Oh, hi, John. How are you?" It's just bizarre. Like, what? How do you know I am?
Yeah. But that's
one
us,
One of the recurring themes of these panels has turned out to be how voice actors are all fans of other voice actors.
So true.
Yeah.
And how pretty much everybody gets along. I tell people I believe the voice acting business has a 2% asshole factor.
I bet those 2%.
Well,
I can tell one.
I see you've heard of me.
Well, we're friends now, but when I first ran into Richard Epcar, a lot of the other guys in the panel already knew who I was, and I don't collect autographs. I really don't. I would much rather meet somebody, work with somebody, get a picture maybe, but I don't do the whole sign thing. So I was getting other stuff signed from friends of mine who were like, "Oh, you're gonna meet so and so. Get this." And Richard Epcar, what? He snubbed me so hard. And then later on, I met him at a party with DC Douglas, and he was like, "Oh, John, I'm a huge fan." I was like, "Hi." He's like, "What did I do?" He's like, "I knew I had to do something." It's just that then he explained we're friends now. He's like super supportive. But when we first met, he was like, "Go to my table and pay like everybody else." But he was super cool about it. So
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm not nice about autographs. I believe I take after Tony Randall, who would refuse to sign autographs, and because he didn't believe in it. And
Interesting.
and when people would walk up to approach him and ask for his autograph, he said, "Well, I'll sign on one condition. Tell me what you intend to do with it."
Nice.
And he said, and nobody's ever come up with a good enough answer, so I don't sign.
Oh God, I love it.
And I'm kind of that way. It's like, yeah, well, my autograph, well, it's not worth anything. I'm
always worried somebody's going to try to sign a check with my name on it, so I had to change my signature.
Oh yeah, no, that kind of thing. Yeah. Nobody. I don't think anyone signed a check, but I was shocked once that I was working on a demo reel years ago, and a friend of mine was designing the graphic, and then he showed me the back of it. And he had my signature on it. Oh, when did I do that signature? Said, oh, I got it off the internet.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
What? Somebody that I'd signed an autograph for put it up on the internet, and immediately now I do not use my legal signature just so as you know. I have my public autograph, which is not the same as my bank.
His public autograph is Paul Freeze.
Yeah.
But no, I hardly, if I because of Star Wars and Disney and Transformers and all of this, if I were to try to keep up with every autograph requests, it would literally be my entire life would be signing stuff, and I hate signing things. Sorry for the fans, but I don't mean to disappoint.
Just outsource your signature.
I know it means a lot to a lot of people, but I can't.
Just get you an intern to sign for you.
Get a stamper. Get one of those stampers.
I know. Well, I did have a stamp with my Disney character voices when I would do the press events in Florida. That same friend designed it was like a postage, cancellation stamp, and it had.
Does it say no autograph?
No. At that time,
9.
No signature required.
This is
What are you going to do with it?
20 to 30 years ago, when they used to have press events and have us non-celebrities there. But yeah, so I would stamp it. It had 35 of my Disney character.
Wow.
Nice.
characters.
Now you could probably do one of those picture collages where it makes a big form of your face and like thousands of pictures.
Like I say, I've been doing it for so many years. And people say, what did you do? I'm like, well, this week I did, I can't remember. You tell me.
How do you keep
I did ADR for Moses during the 10 Commandments.
What did you do? Yeah, exactly. I have to go to IMDb because, from home especially, I might do 5 sessions in a day. And then, you don't know which ones are actually going to work out to be paying sessions or if there was just a scratch track or an audition. I don't know. It's like, yep, connect with me on the ISDN. And
For those of you who are puzzled by the use of the term scratch track, that's a contemporary track for reference and need to be replaced by a formal track, better recorded later on. We are going to now show these people what you do for a living. If you grab your scripts up, everybody.
Oh.
We are going to do the reading. This is the same script that most of our people have done on the previous ones. I will assign the roles and give you not enough time to mark your scripts.
I'm going to duck off camera and get my script here.
Fine, you can do that.
After
And
these messages, he'll be right back.
The main thing you need to remember is you do not have to stick to the lines, unlike if you work on one of my other real sessions, and you can change your voices anytime you want. You can ad lib, you can do anything you want with the part. We don't care. This is purposely a very boring script, which we give you to let you do something more creative with it, and to show how a great voice person can make even a dull script interesting and fun. Now, the script is Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and Kari, you are Goldilocks. Mr. Karliak, you are the baby bear.
Oh.
Jon, you are the Papa Bear. Kimberly, you have two roles. You are Mother and the Mama Bear.
Okay.
And Corey, you are the narrator in this. Now, Corey, your challenge here, though, is that I want every line you do to be a different narrator, a different voice, to a different announcer. At some point, I would like Marvin Miller in there, please. At some point, I would like you to get John Harlan in there. At some point, whatever you want to, just anybody you want to do, but every line is different. Now, I'm going to give you a minute I'm going to take myself full screen here and talk to the audience while you folks mark your scripts. You got about 2 minutes here, so go ahead.
Okay.
All right. This is the part of these things where I always talk about how I have a crusade against predatory voice coaches. There are an awful lot of people teaching voice work now. Some of them are wonderful, most notably the ones who are actively working as voice people at the same time. But every so often I hear these sad stories of some young wannabe voice actor or actress who said to their parents, oh, this is the career I want for myself. And they find a voice coach person who says, oh, you have fabulous talent. Just give me a lot of money and I will train you to the point where you'll be taking jobs away from Frank Welker. And sometimes the amounts of money are kind of shocking. There are good people. We'll talk about some of them here who teach. JP teaches, I know, and other folks we'll talk about. But beware of this. I got annoyed by this years ago. I've been doing these cartoon voice panels at San Diego for over 20 years. I started doing them a long time ago when cartoon voice actors were not welcome at the convention, or were not celebrated at the convention at least. And it snowballed, and we'd have a lot of this. For a while at the panels, I used to take questions from the floor at the end, and we stopped doing that because everybody who asked a question from the floor wanted to audition and ask about their careers. And I could see the other people in the audience get up and leave when that happened. So we stopped doing that, and I started a second panel called The Business of Cartoon Voices, which we do at San Diego every year when there is a San Diego Comic-Con. On Sunday afternoon, I invite agents and some of the actors in to do that. And we talk it's not for entertainment, it is for giving people some basic facts of the business and cautioning them about some of the pitfalls. And if you are interested in becoming a cartoon voice actor, I would suggest whenever there's another Comic-Con at San Diego, you show up for that panel. It's free, and we give you an awful lot of advice. Or you can tune in here in 2 weeks when we're doing it. 2 weeks from today, today is the 8th. We're on I think it's the 22nd Saturday. In this time slot, 4 o'clock, I'm going to do a Business of Cartoon Voices panel with some actors. I'm going to have Bob Bergen and Debbie Derryberry. I'm going to have a couple of agents and casting people here. And we'll tell you just flat out what it takes to get into the business. That's August 22nd, I think that is. Yes, August 22nd. Now, cast, are you, Jon Bailey used to come to those classes, as I recall. Jon, you came to some of those. Unmute yourself, Jon.
There we go. Yes.
You came to some of those classes.
I started going to those 7 years ago because at that time I was just trying to learn everything I could, which is what I think anybody who wants to be a voice actor should do. Any type of information you can get, especially if it's free, like at Comic-Con. I mean, you already paid for your pass. You might as well get all the info you can. And so it was 6 years of going, and one panel I was actually on last time.
Yeah, I put him on at one time, and he was wonderful talking to people. about the business, and some of his information was even better than mine because his was more current, having broken into the field fairly recently. The new kid in the business. So anyway, all right. Cast members here, we are going to read this script through without stopping. Tori will be narrator. Just remind you, Kari is Goldilocks. Kimberly is Mother, and Mama Bear. JP is Baby Bear. Jon is Papa Bear. Change your voice anytime you want. Change any words you like. And
think of
you can who you going to start? Who you going to start with, Corey?
Well,
who you going to start with?
I never did a great Edward Everett Horton, but I do a very good Charlie.
Okay.
Ruggles.
All right. Let's start with
Yes,
Charlie Ruggles, who's the
Aesop
voice you
and
know from the Aesop
Yeah.
Son companies.
Well,
All right.
Junior,
Here we go.
right,
This is the
yes.
story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Start with Corey. Go.
Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Goldilocks. She was called that because she had golden locks of hair, and she was very beautiful.
Hello, my name is Goldilocks. I'm called that because I have golden locks of hair and I'm very beautiful. And slightly evil.
And this is Art Gilmore saying, one day she told her mother she was going to take a walk in the woods, and her mother gave her a warning.
Oh, mother of mine, I'm going to take a walk in the woods.
Girl, don't go into them woods.
Why not?
You know what they do to girls in the woods like that, especially the North Woods. You know what they do to girls with hairs like yours, right?
Oh, don't worry, mother dear. I will not stray into the North Woods.
Okay. Yep.
I hear
Do
it's
what you
rough.
want. Do what you want.
But the trouble with Goldilocks was that she never listened to her mother, and it often got her into trouble. On her walk, she came across a sign.
Okay, so I'm going to switch to Zatanna from DC Superhero Girls. Happy humming. Oh, what does that sign say? Warning, now entering the North Woods. Okay, that is so bad. Little girls beware. Oh, I'm sure they're not going to bother me. I'm fine.
And Marvin would say, she continued merrily on her way, a path. I'm on a path. Well, let me take that. Take two. She continued merrily on her way, on a path that would take her past a big wooden house. In that house, there lived three bears. A Papa Bear.
Man, I love it when you call me Big Papa. Hey, Mama, which one's gonna be ready? I'm starving.
I'm making it
there-
right now, Papa.
Hold on.
And there was also a Mama Bear.
Sit right down at the table, and I'll give you a big, steaming bowl of delicious porridge.
Oh man, porridge again? Huh!
But I thought you loved my porridge.
I ate your porridge. That don't mean I like it.
You.
And Dick Tufeld speaking. And lastly, there was their son, who was known as Baby Bear because he was a baby bear.
Excellent! Let me at it. Mama does make the most delicious porridge. Give me some of that or your lives are on the line.
You see, Papa, someone here appreciates my cooking.
Well, it looks hot, but I can't wait. Taste it. Gasp! My porridge is way too hot, man. I burned my tongue.
Give it over here, you moron. You don't have any stones. Ow! Oh, my porridge is way too hot, too!
See, Daddy knows best, man. By the time this porridge cools down enough to eat, we'll starve to death.
The old man's right.
Oh, just nonsense. You guys hush up. I know what we'll do. We'll go for a walk in the woods. By the time we get back, the porridge will be nice and perfect.
And as John heard. And so that's just what they did. They went for a walk in the woods, and being very trusting bears, they didn't even think to lock the front door.
I do not know why we always have to eat porridge. How about some real food once in a while?
I'm going to switch to Jasper. But I thought you loved my porridge.
I love porridge.
Be quiet, son. Baby bears should be heard and not seen. Let me tell you what real food is, Mama.
And how about Bill Conrad? A few minutes later, who should wander past their house but Goldilocks?
Oh, that's me. And I'm going to do Ozma from Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. I guess I made a wrong turn. I should go that way. Oh, maybe this way. I'm so lost in the forest. I'm hopelessly, totally lost and no one will ever find me. Oh, no. I know who will find me. A bear will find me and eat me. Oh, maybe the people in this house will help me.
And Bill Conrad again. She ran to the front door and knocked, but no one answered. In fact, the door slowly opened on its own.
Hello? Haruko here. Anybody home? I'm lost in the forest and I haven't had anything to eat and I'm hungry. I'm tired. Oh, what's that? It smells like porridge. Kitty, kitty, meow.
Let's see, a 1930s guy. Her nose led her to the dining room where she found the 3 bowls left there by the 3 bears.
We'll just age her up a little. Oh, I hope the people who own this house don't mind if I eat a little. Oh, my. Porridge is too hot. Maybe this bowl. I think I lost my dentures. It's a little too cold. Maybe the 3rd bowl is. Oh, well, that's just right. I think Grammy will eat a little of that. And just jelly. Oh, yeah.
And Adolf Caesar. She gobbled down every last bit of porridge. And then she staggered into the living room and she sat down in Papa Bear's chair.
As Tigress, this chair is too hard. It hurts my bum.
And let's see, John McLeish, the old goofy narrator. So she tried sitting in Mama Bear's chair.
This chair is too soft. I know that I'm sitting awkwardly on all of these chairs, but I don't like this one either.
Finally, she tried sitting in Baby Bear's chair.
We'll switch to Dorothy. This chair is just right. Oh, ow, man. Nuts. I broke the cute little chair. Oh, man, I need to find someplace to lie down. Because all this acting's tuckering me out.
Maybe more of an Orson Welles-y thing. She staggered into the bedroom where she found 3 beds. She decided to lie down on the biggest bed, which was Papa Bear's bed.
Well, as Emma Frost would say, I believe this bed is much too hard.
So she switched to the next largest bed, which was Mama Bear's bed.
No, I believe this bed is way too soft.
Kari, do Bill Woodson.
Oh, yes, Bill Woodson. Finally, she laid down on the smallest bed, which was Baby Bear's bed.
Well, I believe this bed is just right. Let me close my eyes and take a little nappy nap.
Gary Owens.
Gary Owens. And as she was fast asleep, the 3 bears were returning home.
I mean, I don't understand. Why do we even have to have porridge for lunch, Mom? I mean, it's totally a breakfast item.
But
I love porridge.
But we always have porridge for lunch.
I reiterate, I love porridge.
Well, that's because it's all you've ever eaten, son, because we're very poor. Wait till you get older and you get a taste for some of the finer things in life if you don't quit school and go to college and get a good job.
Papa, did you lock the door before we left?
Oh, you know we never lock the door, Mama. Why do you ask me now?
Because it's open. It's wide open, like someone just walked in while we were away. Well, what if some dastardly criminal or somebody wants to steal our porridge?
He's welcome to mine. I did not want it anyway.
Yeah, what if it's a monster? A monster that's 20 feet tall and covered with green fur, with rows and rows of razor-sharp teeth even.
Oh no, well, I don't know, no.
Well then, I mean, what if it's the kind that can tear a bear limb from limb and leave his body lifeless on the ground like an old rug in front of a fireplace? What then? Tell me.
Well, then he's still welcome to my porridge, as it might kill me.
Lead the way home, okay? Okay, but take it real slow and be real careful, okay?
Corey, Jackson Beck.
Cautiously, they entered their house. An ominous feeling of dread hung low in the atmosphere as they made their way to the dining room. That was where they saw it.
Gasp of horror!
Gasp of horror.
Someone's been eating my porridge!
Someone has definitely been eating my porridge.
Well, someone's been eating my porridge, and whoever it was has eaten all of it, which is good, because I'm watching my figure.
Oh, Papa, look over in the living room. Your rocking chair is rocking all by itself.
Yeah, and the seating's one. Somebody's been sitting in my chair. There's a butt print and everything.
Someone's been sitting in my chair.
Someone's been sitting in my chair, and look at this. I can see splinters of it. They seem to have broke it into pieces.
What's in our house? Is it a ghost? Is it a monster? Is it a demon spirit?
All right. Relax, both of you. You're letting your imagination get the best of you here. An empty bowl of porridge and a broken chair doesn't mean there's a monster in the house. But that definitely does. So let me get out of this place. All right. Baby bear, you have a line.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that was all combined.
I'll just take a break and go eat some Carl's Jr. while you find your place.
Right.
Stop it, I say! Do I have to be all the courage in this family? Are you going to be terrible role models for me, your young and impressionable son? There's a monster here. We have to find it, face it, and defeat it. Rock on!
My son is right. This is a moment that requires courage.
Oh, that ghastly sound is coming from the bedroom.
All right, bears, lock and load. Follow me. Someone has sleep apnea.
And it's Saturday Night Live! And slowly, cautiously, they tiptoed from the bedroom where they found...
You know, it looks like somebody's been sleeping in my bed.
Someone has definitely been sleeping in my bed.
You know, somebody's been sleeping in my bed, and she's still sleeping in it right now.
I hear someone. Who is here? Who?
And let's see, how about, yes, Frank Lovejoy. Goldilocks screamed, ran from the bear's house, and all the way through the woods back to her home. She never disobeyed her mother, and she never went into the woods again. As for the three bears, from then on they kept their doors locked. Oh, and Mama Bear learned how to cook something besides porridge.
For dinner tonight, I'm gonna make a roast chicken.
Finally, something edible.
Stuffed with porridge.
Low mo.
See what I did there?
Delicious.
Bravo. A fine
Ladies
job.
and gentlemen, boys and girls,
Nice.
that was
Keep your
our
hands
show.
inside this
Right.
Zoom call.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Brought to you by Nabisco. You'll find quality in our corner.
Rice-A-Roni, the San Francisco treat.
Rice-A-Roni. That was Dick Tufeld. I have a track right here. Yes.
Oh,
Rice-A-Roni, the San
Francisco treat. Yep.
One time when
Thank
Corey
you.
was on a Garfield, he was the narrator, and I made him go through every narrator in the world,
Oh my gosh.
not to pick the voice. I just wanted to hear him do Jackson Beck and Bill Woodson and all these guys.
Yeah.
Jackson
I'm a
Beck
little
was-
rusty on some of them.
Jackson Beck was the
Sounded
guy who
great.
narrated the Woody Allen film "Take the Money and Run," and he did the Little
Yeah.
Caesars Pizza commercials.
Oh,
and
wow.
He did,
Yeah.
and he was the voice of Bluto for a long time in the cartoons, and of King Leonardo. And
He did a National Lampoon thing. I just remember him saying, "The voice of the people is heard."
Yeah, he actually had card number 2 in the Screen Actors Guild. He worked so long, and he was a little. I got to work with him once. Just the thrill of hearing that voice come out of a human being.
One of my favorite narrators. Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
Ted Knight.
Ted Knight.
Ted
yeah.
Knight.
That's right.
Yes,
That's Ted
Ted
Knight.
Knight, who
Good night,
once
Lou.
was behind me in Hollywood in his Mercedes convertible. And it's funny, I looked up in the rearview mirror and it was bad traffic in Hollywood. And
What?
and there behind me was Ted Knight looking like $1 million in this convertible, just with a beaming smile. And I thought, now that's a star.
Oh,
Boy,
nice.
God, he looked fantastic. And there was a man who loved show business.
Yeah.
So talented.
Yeah, these people are kind of legendary in their own way, and we love those voices. Sometimes they get carried on, and actually they become sometimes adjectives. I've heard I once heard another director say to an actor in the booth, "Could you give it a little more? Could you Gary Owens it a little bit more?"
yeah.
They know Gary was an amazing, wonderful talent also. Now, our next topic here, I got an email this morning, about 2 hours ago.
Was it from a prince in Nigeria?
Yes, as a matter of fact, yes, I'm going to inherit $72 million once
They
they
only
get
need
my
your
credit
routing
card
number and your autograph from Corey
Yeah,
Burton.
that's right. Okay. No, it wasn't that. I also got an email this morning from the Trump campaign saying that Donald Trump had signed a MAGA hat just for me and said, send this to him because he's one of my greatest supporters, and as soon as he sends in more money, send it to him. Anyway.
It's very true. Mark's my biggest supporter. Everyone knows this, all right? Mark's my best friend. Everyone knows this is the truth, people. No fake news here. We go way, way back, all right?
I met him. I met Donald Trump once backstage at David Letterman's show when it was on NBC. The other guest that night was a friend of mine named Jan Hooks, who you may remember. She was on Designing Women, and she was on Saturday Night Live. And she played, whenever Phil Hartman played Donald Trump, she played whichever wife was current at that moment in his life. And she went up to Mr. Trump and said, "Oh, Mr. Trump, I hope you like those little sketches that we did on Saturday Night Live, and we, spoofing you a little bit." And Mr. Trump began screaming at her, and the misogyny that came out was ghastly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoy your how Mark America great again. All right, that's just for you.
Okay, now let me read this letter I got. Just listen to this. It's particularly Kari and Kimberly. Mr. Evanier, thank you for the cartoon voice panels you host on the internet. They inspire me a lot in working towards my chosen profession, which is to be a voiceover actress for animated cartoons. When I was younger, I wanted to be the kind of actress who appears before the cameras, but as I got older and my appearance was formed as a teenager, I decided I did not have movie star looks, so a voiceover career made more sense and seemed more attainable. I see that on your next panel, you are having Kari Wahlgren and Kimberly Brooks, two women who I greatly admire and who are having exactly the kind of career that I have dreamed of having. As I look at most of the leading female voice performers of today, I am struck by how they are all beautiful enough to be performers on camera, and I see that many of them do appear on camera. I would appreciate it if you would ask Ms. Wahlgren and Ms. Brooks how much that matters, and if there is still room in their field for someone who might be able to sound like a movie star but cannot look like one. Please, for obvious reasons, do not give my name.
Oh.
Now, last San Diego Con, Remember back when we used to actually go to Comic-Cons?
Yeah.
I was doing a panel, I was doing an interview for the Sci-Fi Network. They had a little room at the Hilton, and they had me in there with a camera crew, and they put makeup, a little makeup on me, and I talked to them for a while. And then as I was leaving, they were bringing in the next interview. And as I'm walking down out of there, coming in, I have several of the most beautiful women I have ever seen in my life. They've been like with a makeup crew, a Hollywood makeup crew, and they're gorgeous. And I didn't recognize the first one until she was past me, and I realized that's Julie Nathanson. Ray Griffin or Delisle, whichever she is this week, was the next one. And I think, Kari, you were one of them. And I was just staggered. You know, I mean, you're attractive women anyway, but, you know, you put a good makeup person on anyone long enough, and they look, you know, they have now been, you know, airbrushed and rouged to the point of anyway. And
That's right, but one of the
does it show?
Anyway,
I was going to say one of the great romantic lead radio actors was a character actor named Olan Soule.
Olan Soule, he was
this
the voice of
romantic
Batman.
voice.
Yes.
He was the voice of Batman.
But on camera, well, he looked like, you know, this nerdy book clerk. He was always this sort of loser, you know, Wally Cox kind of, you know, bespectacled, balding, you know, really somebody who had zero sex appeal. And I was going to say that fantastic voice from the 1960s, Mission Impossible. Good morning, Mr. Phelps. Your mission, should you decide to accept, and the voice of Quinn Martin, a Quinn Martin production. Oh, damn, what was his name? Well, I'll come up with it when I'm not thinking about it. But anyway, I met him once, and I have to say, he was a lovely man. And that voice, which just sounded nice on television, in person, literally the walls rattled. He was a short man. Bob Johnson, incredible voice. He was so ugly that I went like, yee, when I met him. He was like scary. His face was pockmarked. He had these like zombie eyes, these piercing blue eyes that were kind of dark rimmed, and he was just he was frighteningly ugly, but a sweet man. but anyway, so it doesn't.
But he had a great
matter what you
personality.
look like. But you know, and that's why I don't put my picture on things because
Same. I avoid headshots.
And yeah, no. The characters I play mostly are older and wizardy kind of characters, and whatever. It doesn't matter.
Well, I
don't
love.
want that to influence how people hear the voice. They should be seeing the character, not the person behind the character.
I would love to answer this one. And thank you so much to whoever it was out there that wrote that letter, because I know, I think it is different for women, that there's a little bit more pressure to look a certain way, and how that can kind of mess with you as an artist. And so I want to just tell you a couple quick little things. When I first moved to Los Angeles, and I'm coming up on 20 years of being in LA. And when I first moved to LA, I always knew that I wanted to do voiceover, but I moved out to LA thinking I'm going to try to do more on-camera work and work on voiceover, booking voiceover jobs as well. But my focus was kind of a little bit more on camera. And I would go to auditions, and there would be these other girls in the lobby, and I would hear their auditions, and they were really bad. They were just not good, but they were stunningly beautiful. And it really kind of got to me a little bit after a while, because I'm like, I'm trying to do good auditions. I'm trying to really be a good actor. And, you know, it's coming down to some girl that can barely talk and chew gum at the same time and who's just really good looking. And I said to myself after a certain amount of time, I said, you know, I'm just going to focus all of my attention on voiceover for a while because it doesn't do me any favors if I get bitter. Yeah. That's the thing is, you see amazing character actresses out there, and, you know, so you don't have to look perfect. You know, you can do these other roles and stuff like that and still have an on-camera career. But if it affects you, then you're not doing yourself any favors. You know, because how you feel about yourself is the most important thing as an artist, because that's what you're going to bring to your work. So I made a decision that I'm going to stop focusing on on-camera work for a while. I'm just going to put all of my attention into voiceover. And that's when my voiceover career really started to take off. And the thing that I love so much about voiceover is that if you are an attractive girl, maybe that will help you book one job, possibly two. But after that, you've got to be good. You know, you can't sustain a career in voiceover off of your looks. You just can't, because it's too competitive. And I'll tell you, a lot of pretty girls are too self-conscious to laugh at themselves and to, you know, make them really ugly. You've got to be able to laugh at yourself and be silly and make snorty noises and just do all sorts of silly, stupid things, because that's what the job is, you know?
You as you know, it's, and especially as voice actors, it's all about character.
Yes, it's all coming from the acting.
If you're perceived as a particularly attractive person, that's going to limit your range as a character. I mean, who do you think of with great range of memorable characters? People like Rachel Dratch, you know, she's certainly
right, yeah.
no fashion model, you know, and yet we want to see Rachel Dratch because she is funny and brilliant and great. And,
yeah.
And you know,
so,
and
your voice lasts much longer than your looks do.
Yeah, I would just say to you just to really work on being the best actor that you can, because especially for women, it's very, very important in voiceover that you are really comfortable going to the wall with your broad interpretations or with your nuance, you know, what you bring to the character. And the funny thing is, years later, after I was a lot more comfortable doing voiceover, that's actually when I started booking more on-camera jobs, because I got to the point where I didn't really care. And so it's not that I do a ton of on-camera now just because I prefer to do voiceover, but when you get really comfortable with yourself as an artist and as a person, then you'll find that you bring more to your work, whether you decide to do on-camera or voiceover. And I really wish you well. Kimberly, do you have?
Well, I have that same perspective that you do, but I bring another perspective, being an African-American woman, a Black woman, on this panel, and in this business. I started out when I was really young doing puppet shows. And I loved doing all of the different characters. Just as a kid, and I loved doing all the characters. And then I was always an actress. And when I came, I'm from LA, so I didn't come to Hollywood. But when I started working in Hollywood, and trying to do on camera, I realized I'm so limited to what I look like. And you know, there's not a lot of roles, especially when I started, a lot of roles for Black women. And to be able to express myself and hit that creative outlet, I found that voiceover was so perfect for me, because I have all of these voices and all of these things inside of me, and I get to let them out, which I wouldn't be able to do in an on-camera situation. So
yeah, and it literally does not matter what you look like. They're casting characters.
Like and the thing for me is, Like when we're doing this show, of course, you know, Kari's going to be Goldilocks because that's how it would be in on camera. In voiceover, I could be Goldilocks.
Yes.
That's what I freaking like about it. So.
Yes.
That's right.
Anyway.
That's right. That's right. Well, I now they finally agreed to change the name. I was so proud. Here I'm a San Fernando Valley, secular Jew boy, you know, and I have been the voice of Native America for Change the Mascot. And I did it as a demo. They were going to do it for Jeep, and then Jeep said, "Well, we're not sure if we want to get into the controversy for the Super Bowl." So they took the track that I had recorded, and NCAI, National Congress of American Indians, they said, "Can we have this?" And I said, "Please, it's such a beautiful piece. It's still on YouTube, I'm sure. It's called Proud to Be." And I did my sort of Chief Dan George, and just I channeled the voice of Native America describing the pride and beauty of Native American culture. And I proud to be, boy, I am so proud to be. And the notes came back from the chiefs, and they said, "You actually were a little too authentic on your pronunciation of some of the tribal names." Like I said, Choctaw, and said, "Make it more just average American Choctaw,
Choctaw.
Sioux, and stuff like that." So, no, just be more American with it. Yeah. But oh God, I love that piece. It's such a beautiful piece.
Let me talk a little. Kari started to talk about this. I wanted to get to the topic of talking about acting. Now, a recurring other theme on these podcasts has been Dawes Butler. We remember the great Dawes Butler a lot. He was a lovely man. If you do not know who Dawes Butler was, you have no business being watching a cartoon voice panel, because he was one of the best who ever lived. This was Dawes Butler. He was the voice of Yogi Bear and Quick Draw McGraw and Huckleberry Hound and Mr. Jinx and Hokey Wolf and Snooper and Blabber and Augie Doggy and Elroy Jetson and Captain Crunch and hundreds of others.
And Kari talk about being no matinee idol or looking like any of his characters.
Yeah. Kari, you studied with Dawes.
Yeah.
Bob Bergen said on the first one of these we did that Dawes was the first teacher he ever had who said the word acting to him. And
in fact, I was even going to jump in and say, we all say voiceover now. To me, a voiceover is a commercial. It's voice over picture, music, and effects. What we do is voice acting or narration.
Well, you do everything, Kari. I mean, you do voiceover, but you also act.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. All right. Now,
but when you're playing a character, I don't call it a voiceover unless it is a television commercial or something, and it's literally a TV voiceover. In an animated cartoon, that's an acting performance. That's a voice acting performance, not a voiceover. Unless you're the narrator or on the movie trailer for it.
Now, Dawes was pretty important to your career, Kari. Yes, he's laughing knowingly. Yes. What did you learn from him? I mean, briefly. I mean, obviously, tons of stuff. But what was the single main lesson that you got out of his class?
Well, after 4.5 years of marking scripts and listening to everybody's interpretations and coming up with our own and finding character through impressions and such. In the end, it's funny. It's so many directors say, "Just be yourself." It's like, well, no, you don't be yourself. You be the character that's on the page. The writer, just as when you read a good book, you read the dialogue, you hear that character's voice when you are reading that book. And our job is to see and feel and hear the character that comes from the mind of the writer and let it just pass through us. The best acting I ever do, I have no idea what I've just done. I've looked at the words and I've let the character come out of me and say the words on the page, or whatever words that just the character happens to want to say. You know, I often do that. I'll just change the line if that's not what the character would say.
One time on a Garfield, we had Corey and I had written a little gangster, a little small gangster type character, and I was hearing Dawes Butler's Snooper voice, which was the guy from Duffy's Tavern, the narrator from that. Ed, can't remember Ed's name right now, and I didn't tell that to Corey. I just said, "What would you do for this character?" And he came up with the same voice. He started doing Snooper, basically, a variation, a close variation on it.
Voice. And then, of course, gangster, I always think Sheldon Leonard is the quintessential gangster voice from the 1950s.
That guy.
Uh,
Now, JP, on past panels here, people have talked about your teaching. You teach classes.
I do.
At times. What do you teach people? And basically, what do they get? What do they learn in your class?
What do they get for their money? A couple things. I teach 2 different boot camps at Real Voice LA, which is in Universal City. Not that it matters now because everything's on Zoom, but could be in Poughkeepsie
Universal
for all I know.
Pictures.
I know.
Yeah, but it has been great because I have been able to teach people. Like I actually have a student who's in Berlin, which is
Wow.
He's up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, dude, I can do a private. It's not a big deal. But yeah. I have 2 different classes. One is creating characters, where we kind of dissect the different elements of your voice, pitch, timbre, intensity, all sorts of the melody of your voice, all sorts of different things, and how you can kind of adjust the dials on each one to create different voices, and then putting a beating heart in those voices to create characters. And then the other class I teach is called Creating Worlds, where we talk about how, as an on-camera actor, you have the benefit of the set, the costumes, the props, the scene partner across from you, and all of that stuff, and how we put all of that in our brains in the middle of a padded room and create all that in the context of the scene.
Yeah, you know, when you do ADR acting or voice replacement, what I always do is, because if you try to do it mechanically and follow the lips, it never works. What I try to do is just throw myself into the screen. It's like and hear that character on screen just come out of me, you know, and bam, that always works.
John, what training was most valuable to you? Where did you learn voice acting?
My first introduction to it was Pat Fraley's cartoon characters on cassette tape. Go watch Guardians of the Galaxy. You'll find out what a cassette tape is. I basically, at 13 years old, memorized that thing in and out on how to create characters and all the different tricks you could do to come up with characters. And I've been doing impressions and sound like since I was 4 with Grover. It was a whole competition thing with my mom.
Corey is showing us what a cassette tape looks like.
It's a magnetic strip of thing with audio
He has
on
one
it.
handy.
And you have to rewind it when you're done. So my mom was like, I can do a good Grover voice, and I was a very competitive child. I was like, I better do it better than you, and thus my interest in voices began. But definitely Pat Fraley's cassettes off the top. But I've worked with Christina Malizia, Debbie Derryberry, Sarah Sherman is a really good one. A couple other ones that I just can't remember off the top of my head. Kylie Bear, back in the day when I first got started, he does a lot of general stuff. There's different levels of coaching and courses to take, so it just depends on what level you're at as to what you can learn. I mean, guys who've been in this 15, 20 years don't need to go to a beginner class, obviously. So
yeah, some people in the chat room reminded me of the fellow who was the voice of Duffy's Tavern was Ed Gardner.
Oh, that's right.
And Dawes used to do him a lot. A lot of Dawes's characters were radio voices or actors that he would then modify. He turned Bert Lahr into Snagglepuss. Wasn't exactly the same voice. He turned Phil Silvers into Hokey Wolf and made it his own. Kimberly, when you started deciding you wanted to get into voice acting, what helped you? What were there classes? Were there tapes? Were there cassettes? Anything?
Yeah, I've also been doing it a really long time. Don't want to age myself here, but yeah, I've been doing it.
It was
a
8
really...
tracks.
Someone once told me
phonograph.
someone once told me that the best way.
Yeah, it was the big. You got to crank.
Although you look 18,
Kimberly Brooks.
All of this was long before you were born.
I'm going to get this joke in. Someone once told me that the best way to insult a porno actress was to tell her you had all of her movies on beta. So, so all right.
Yeah, there you go.
I actually took a class with Mary Kay Bergman back in the day. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to be an announcer. And I loved Don LaFontaine's voice. And I wanted to be the female Don LaFontaine. And ironically, I did book a huge campaign with NBC when they were and I was the voice of NBC for, I don't know, I think it was like 4 years. And it was when they were kind of doing a retro. You guys are talking about all these amazing announcers. But what I got to say was, the following programs are brought to you in living color on NBC. And that's when they were doing like the flashback to the old.
I was your counterpart.
Yes.
Living color on NBC.
Living color on it. Yeah. So
that's Donald Rickles, who we talked about yesterday.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, you guys were talking about him yesterday?
Corey and I went through a medley of old announcers. We were talking yesterday, and we talked about Donald Rickles, who was the guy who introduced NBC Saturday Night at the Movies and things like that. And and they had Bill Wendell there, and they had Don Pardo, and they had all these guys.
Well,
by the way,
East Coast, Rickles was here, I think.
Yeah. Somebody told us. Some people gave me some names of some of the other Quinn Martin guys. Hank Sims was one of the other
Academy Awards.
Yes.
Academy Awards. Academy Awards. Beautiful voice.
I can't find the other one out. I've got so many.
There's a lot now. Howard Parker.
I've got so many questions on here. I can't find them. Yeah. There are certain.
They're all kids to me.
At any given time, there are certain promo guys who everyone tries to emulate. For a long time, it was Don LaFontaine. Now it's like Joe Cipriano. People are doing him a lot, and
so good.
And and there was a time when everybody was trying to sound like Mark Elliott, who was the voice of Disney basically for a long time.
On Blu-ray and DVD.
Yes.
But it was
Dick Tufeld. It was Mark Elliott.
Yeah.
Mark Elliott, amazing. But it's a boys club, and we need some female representation, and all of that history is amazing.
Yes.
And I was very proud to be a part of it. I mean, I think in general, I love the history of voiceover, and like all of these stories you guys are talking about, and these people are just so fascinating to me. And I hope to stand on the shoulders of those people, and just continue.
Absolutely.
If you ever listen to, and I think they're on.
I'd hire you.
I think they're public domain, and they're on the Internet Archive. The Stan Freberg radio show. He did 13 weeks of it was the last real network comedy radio show. And he had a vocalist on there named Peggy Taylor, who sang a song every week and sang a lot of his songs. And Peggy Taylor went on to become the first real network female voice of the network ever. Where she was the house voice at NBC for a long time. And broke a lot of
NBC, our local station, especially.
Yes. And nowadays, you do have women who are doing. There was always a thought was that the voice of the network should be authoritative, and therefore it should be a male voice. And now you have women who, like Randy Thomas, who does
Vanessa Marshall.
Vanessa Marshall do a lot of, and they do a lot of award shows. Miriam Massaro does a lot of award shows, and it's nice now that they are not. June Foray was the announcer on The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. when that show was on. She did all the we'll be right back things and stuff like that.
The
And
movie
it's-
In a World is basically that's the plot of a woman trying to become a female promo voice in a male-dominated promo world.
Yeah, that's definitely my jam. I mean, I've got like you, Corey. I've got the ISDN box here. I love that world of promo. I love how it's just so immediate, and I love doing things to picture. I love how technical it is.
I know. I wish they'd give us more of a heads up, though. It's like,
I know.
Can you do this in 10 minutes? Like,
They need you in 5.
I got to do a voice match.
Golden
Wait a second.
chain.
Wait a second.
Wow.
Let me get
Golden
a cup of tea in
handcuff.
me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
But
I do feel
Go
like
ahead.
I do feel like I was the voice along with 2 other male voice announcers, and the only reason I got hired was there was a female executive that worked at NBC who said, I want to hear a female on the network. That's how I got hired.
Yes.
When she left 4 years later, they sort of phased out the female voice and they left and they kept the male voices. So we're still struggling in this industry.
It's really annoying.
It really is. And it's only here. Like I had a lot of producers say, in Australia and England, whatever, they use female announcers almost on everything, especially.
Then when they do hire them, it's like Oxygen or Lifetime.
Yeah, it's the same. It's just
The same
interesting. It's
stuff,
what we're used to hearing, like you said, a voice of authority.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway.
But yeah, I mean, because that you have the sound that I want to hear, male or female.
You have the sound that I love hearing.
You sound authoritative, and
I would listen. I would buy something from you, Kimberly.
Oh God!
I would
darling.
I would let you lead me.
I love it.
I watched Voltrons 50 times for you, Kimberly.
I'd put you on a Gaffel mic instead of a shotgun. I don't like shotgun mics.
You don't. Well, isn't there a story about Wes Anderson? I mean, not Wes Anderson.
Ernie. Yeah.
Ernie Anderson.
Yeah.
About the
Ernie
mic?
convinced everybody to use the 416 because it was the only mic that he didn't sound 80 years old on.
Is that the reason?
Because it scrapes the harmonics out of the voice, which is why I won't work on them. Because it strips away a lot of the timbre of the different character voices and different vocal placements. That's why I always use old dynamic microphones like that, ribbon mics, and old-fashioned condensers. Now there are some distance hypercardioid short shotgun mics that give a more full timbre, that capture a little bit more of the harmonics, but the industry standard, I hate it.
Isn't it weird? And and now our ears are trained for that. I mean, it seems
Yeah.
like all the engineers want to hear you on the 416 for pretty much anything, except for obviously a lot of animation. They're using the bigger diaphragm microphones.
Yeah. Actually, I was the guy that convinced the Disney character voices people, because there was a session where somebody was doing, a Cinderella or something, or it was a voiceover for a commercial. I can't remember what, but it was this lovely voice. And I said, "Oh, she sounds shrill. And I said, "That's because she's on a 416. Put a U87 in front of her." "No, it's not the microphone. It's hers."
Oh, it's the mic.
You got a U87 there. Listen. And it was like the difference between hello and hello. It was like, oh, well, yeah, because it's the harmonics. Oh, God. Anyway, I have Asperger's. So I hear
love
those
the
things.
mic talk. I love it.
And yeah. And so I have a special dislike for these shotgun mics because they strip character away.
That's really
Corey, you mentioned Ernie Anderson. Do you do Ernie Anderson? You do him?
Nobody can do Ernie.
Everybody was trying to.
I knew him very well, and he was so sweet to me. He had this reputation for being a monster. It was all an act.
I've never heard that.
He would glance over at me and wink, and then he would eviscerate the producer. He said, "Who wrote this shit? I know what that is. You don't know what you're doing. Who the hell hired you for this? I'm gonna change it." You're gonna do it this way, okay? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then he'd look over at me and wink, and then and I'd be doing promos alongside him at ABC, and it was getting to be late at night, and after he's like, you're gonna go home. Let the kid do it. Let the kid can do it. I want to go home.
Let the kid do it. Oh,
Okay.
man.
Okay, we got time here to actually, now we've had some people who have sent the same question 38 times in the chat room. Folks, please don't do that. All it does is make your old questions scroll off faster and be harder to find.
That's called
I'm
trolling.
going to take a few questions starting now, and not personal. It's not about you. Ask these people about their work, and we'll take a few of those before we get out of here. Things you want to know. Like I can't find the other questions you've asked because some of you asked the same question 38 times. Give me question. Corey, how difficult was it looping over old Ludwig von Drake animation? Any memories of working with Michael Rye? Duke? Hawthorne? Okay.
Michael Rye. Yeah, Rye Billsbury was his actual name, but that was and he was actually from the Pillsbury family. He was actually an heir to a fortune.
Wow.
Yes,
Nice.
but he wanted to be an actor. What a character! And he had been in old radio and stuff. He was so
Kimberly,
funny.
just boom.
I'm bad.
He was
Ignore
so
me.
funny. But yes, and of course, I took over Bill Scott's role as Toady, and he was Duke Igthorn, and oh my God, he was funny. Oh my God, and a lovely man with the worst wig. Oh my God, I don't know. It just became his signature. He just plopped this red wig on, and it had the sideburns too, and they'd sort of be hanging off the sides.
Oh my gosh.
It was
That's
just his
amazing.
style, and because he was like 80, 90 years old or something.
He's like, here I am.
And he had to dress up for the session. But now the looping for over old Ludwig footage. Oh my God, that I haven't done that since I first started being assigned the character, and I mean, the word daunting comes to mind, and and especially when you're hearing the original Paul Frees track, and at the time I was just in my 30s, still a kid, and it was intimidating, because he was a genius. I'm a craftsman. I'm not a genius. I have my own thing that just comes.
You're pretty damn good, Corey. Pretty damn good. Okay, next now. Okay, no for chat room people. No questions about being your Facebook friend. No questions about autographs. Tony Manny wants to know, what is the greatest satisfaction of being in the field of voice acting? Do any of you get paid for your work? Do you ever get
me?
Oh, okay.
I'd say my quick answer is working with the talent that is in this industry. I'm blown away almost at every session.
I'm going to give a slightly different answer because the insurance has been the biggest benefit of this career for me, because we have an autistic child. We have 2 other mental health issues in our home. Half of our family has mental health issues. So without this insurance, and right now, this is kind of the career that keeps me going, because a lot of people are not working right now.
Yeah.
How
I'm
lucky
still going.
are we?
So we're all extremely grateful to have this job.
I know. I wish our unions were still as good as they used to be.
I was gonna say we could have a little bit better insurance.
We could.
It used to be really, really, really.
It's better than none.
You just endorsed it. You just signed a new contract. So it's
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
but I want to give a shout out to JP because JP has actually done a ton of work with the
yeah.
union. And so a lot of good things that
Your
have.
insurance is good because of no, I have nothing.
That's
to say
right.
about- Nothing.
No,
nothing.
but
nothing.
seriously, I
Thank you,
mean,
JP.
a lot of work goes on behind the scenes, and
Oh yes, you're
so
that
so
guy.
he's that guy.
You and Michael Bell.
Yeah. So
Always fighting for us, and
Two of
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
No, I mean I will say that Bob Bergen and David Sobolov deserve a lot of credit.
And Bergen.
David.
I was just
as
gonna
the
say Bergen
leads
also.
of the animation
Yeah.
committee, and we have a great team that worked on this contract, and I feel really
Very-
good about it. I feel very
Both
Nice.
also highly
Thank
recommend
you.
for as coaches, both of those guys.
yes.
Yes.
they're both
Yeah.
awesome.
By the
my
way,
business manager says we have the best. Really? Okay, but you know.
Michael Bell has a video online about teaching voice acting. Go to YouTube and search for it. It's quite wonderful. He's got a couple of them actually. They're very good. Here's a question for Stephen Jones. Kimberly, would you do any live action movies if the part was right?
Ooh. I guess I would. Then you have to memorize lines, right? Then you have to memorize
Oh,
stuff.
And makeup,
Oh.
costumes.
Makeup, and you gotta look good all the time.
what would the
Um,
right part be? That's what I'm curious
That's
about.
a good
Yeah.
question.
And then you have to have an on-screen
Mm.
romance to build up hype for the movie, and then you have to get divorced right beforehand or split up or whatever.
No, that's really this is a whole psychological thing because I do so many characters I almost don't know who I am in a weird way. I mean, as far as just like if I had to design the perfect role for me, I'm not in that mindset. I'm in the mindset of like what you were saying, Corey, is being the voice of something that someone else already created and just letting it
Yeah.
come through you. I mean, I aspire to do what you do,
It's
but
being characters.
just being characters. But I'm very
That's-
self-conscious about the way I don't know. I'm self-conscious, so I don't know. I don't know what role would be good for me.
Okay. Speaking of being characters, William Graff wants to know how much latitude do directors give you in terms of character creation?
Depends on the director.
And depends on the character.
That's
I
it.
mean,
For
Corey and I who have almost exclusively played people who played characters that were played by other people before us.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, I think the great freedom in that is, you know, like Boss Baby or Tin Man or Willy Wonka or whatever, is starting at the place where you're imitating, like you're being Alec Baldwin, and it's like you're getting down all of the nuances, and like it's that great creative joy when you get to the point where like, well, you do you've gotten it. Now bring what you bring to the character.
Nice.
Because I don't think I do Alec Baldwin. I think I do Will Arnett doing Alec Baldwin. But
Yeah, there's a video I'd watch.
Yeah.
It's a cut on 30 Rock. It's there.
It
It's
depends
there.
on the directors and then the producers, because when we started doing the Clone Wars series, at first we mimicked the actors from the films, and George, you know, heard our first couple of sessions, and he said, "Tell the actors, you know, that I'm not making movies anymore with these actors, that they are the characters now." So I was given license, played Count Dooku the way I would play Count Dooku, instead of imitating Christopher Lee, and etc. And same with Ewan McGregor and James Arnold Taylor, and you know, etc.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the definitive prequel cast to me. Like, you know, those live action people can, you know, take a back seat. You guys,
I have so much love for that series and everybody involved in it.
The movies were coarse and rough, and they get everywhere.
We're only going to go a few more minutes here. I have just blocked 3 people who have asked the same question 98 times. I could put them on a 5-minute timeout. If they come back ask the same question again, I'm going to bump them off completely.
You tell him, Mark.
Yes, that's right. I feel so awesomely powerful here, and I'm going to throw some of you off the show too. And I've just lost here.
Shut up.
Shut
him up.
Is there ageism in voice casting?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. It's definitely once you reach a certain age, the jobs come less and less. It just depends on if you're, and at least in my area, it depends on if you're the flavor of the week or not. You'll come in one day and everybody will know who you are and everything will be awesome. But if it's a while before you book or it's been a few years, it gets less and less. And then there's other actors who have gone on to being, the Godfather tier, the guys that have been around for forever and done all the things, and they're revered in the group, but they just don't work as much. And sometimes it's because they just don't have to because they don't want to. But other times it's just because, well, you're not in your 20s to 30s and we're looking for this demographic, or we're looking for this age, or, you had a great run, but now we're going over here. And it freaking breaks my heart too, because we as fans want to hear them.
But I also feel like there's longevity. I mean, look at someone like Frank Welker. I mean, for instance, how long has he been playing? How long has he been on Scooby-Doo?
Since Scooby-Doo started.
Since Scooby, and he's still freaking doing it. And
He was on Scooby-Doo so long he became Scooby-Doo.
He became Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
And
Eventually he's gonna be the cast. The whole cast is just gonna be Frank.
I know. It's gonna be Velma.
It's gonna be Daphne, Velma, the whole group. He'll be all the ghosts.
Still sounds 25.
He'll be the guy who didn't get away with it because of the meddling kids. He'll be everyone. He'll be everyone. But yeah, I always look at it from I feel, because I'm old as hell, and I feel like I'm working a lot, and I feel like this is good because for some reason my voice sounds a lot younger than my body looks, and
when you want it to.
When I need it to, exactly. And so I don't know. I'm focusing on the longevity aspect and no one needs to know how old I am.
Certainly less so than on camera.
Jana Waldo did teenage voices into her 80s. She was still doing that Judy Jetson voice of hers when she was in her mid 80s.
Tress McNeil, another one. She still does the teenage voices, and she's amazing.
When I started in my early 20s, I was doing 80 and 90-year-old characters. I always liked to do the old characters better, and they always wanted me to do teenagers. Like, I don't even know how to sound like a real teenager.
The big part of it, though, is that you have to be adaptive to the industry as well. I mean, Neil Ross was the one that taught me. He changes his demo twice a year. I can't keep up with that. You have to keep going whichever the direction the business goes, and learning how to do social media or learning how to do Zoom or record from. A lot of voice actors were not ready for this. They didn't have everything they needed, and they're like, I don't know. I always go to the studio.
There's a big learning curve becoming our own engineer. I have so much respect for engineers.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I tell people if you want to get into voices, go to Neil Ross's website, www.neilross.com, and listen to his demos. That's your competition. He's got the best demos. He's one of the most versatile guys in the business, and utterly professional. Part of your answer, William, is that it's up to directors. I happen to favor older voice actors. And on the Garfield show, I had Stan Freberg on, I had Marvin Kaplan on, I had Jack Riley on, I had Rose Marie from the Dick Van Dyke Show, I had June Foray on the show. I did a session once where literally I had 3 voice actors in wheelchairs.
Oh my God!
I love that.
And Corey was
Walter
in.
Tetley who did the Sherman, Sherman and Peabody. He was in his 70s or whatever when he was still doing the voice of Sherman.
Yeah, Corey was in a Garfield session with me where Stan Freberg was in doing what turned out to be his last job, his last ever voiceover job, a career that ran 70 years, 70. Wow. He did cartoon voices when he was 15, and he did them 70 years later. And we also had Rose Marie did her last job on a Garfield show she ever did. And but there's not a lot of directors who do that, but I'm nuts for the older guys. I was the one, I hired Larry Storch. I hired Jana Waldo. I hired, and we had on one of the most recent, one of these voice panels, we had Alan Oppenheimer, who is still working a lot.
Oh my God.
And Alan Oppenheimer's the guy. If you're watching the Scooby-Doo, any of the suspects are Alan Oppenheimer. He did it. He's the villain. He's always the villain. It's just
Always
like when
did
you,
it.
it's just like when you watch those old Universal Detective shows. If Dick Van Patten is in it, he was the
He did
killer.
it.
So
That's
anyway,
hysterical.
Well,
all right.
Alan
Rob Paulson,
Oppenheimer was in Little Big Man and Westworld. Westworld. It was like a starring role. Alan Oppenheimer was the control room boss, the manager.
Trevor.
Oh, go ahead.
Trevor Kimball says June Foray won an Emmy for Garfield at 90. I think she was 94 actually. I took her to that session, to the daytime Emmys, and walked her up on stage, and it was one of the great emotional moments of my life because the entire world of daytime television lined up to tell June how much they loved her. It was like a receiving line. We had this incredible experience as she came off the stage. She was just mobbed. The first person up to her was a black guy. She didn't know who it was. It was the guy who was then created the voice of Elmo on Sesame Street, and he was the first one out there saying, I love you. And we just went through people like that the whole time, and I told this at the we had this great thing at the TV Academy saluting June after she passed away. In fact, let me stick the picture up here because I've got it here.
While you're looking for that, Rob Paulson always says that
this is I brought up on stage not every single one, but almost all the women I could see in the audience who did voice work. Left to right, Debbie Derryberry, Miriam Massaro, Nancy Cartwright, Gray Delisle, Deborah Wilson, E.G. Daly, Vanessa Marshall, Lily Tomlin, Lorraine Newman, Teresa Ganzel, Audrey Wasilewski, Candy Milo, Julie Nathanson, there's Kari Wahlgren, Misty Lee, Laura Summer, Russi Taylor, and Katie Lee.
Yeah, that's Katie.
And Russi we lost a couple of months ago, but there's a person who worked a lot in her later years. So it's
forever.
Rob Paulson always says that he's so old that he used to perform at the Last Supper.
Yeah.
But I'm bumped.
Yeah.
Russi loves you all.
Try the bread.
Yes. We're going to wrap this up, folks. Let me tell you that each of these people, except for Corey, is readily reachable on social media.
I'm not that good about it either. Sorry.
But Kari, for example, let me do this here. Let me move this over here. I'm going to go there. Kari, for example, is on Instagram at Kari Wahlgren, and she has www.kariwahlgren.com. She has the lucky thing that I have of having a name that nobody else has. So we're easy to find on the internet.
And Twitter too. Twitter too.
Whatever you're on, if you type in Kari Wahlgren, you'll find her. Any site will take you to her. I just bumped JP. Wait a minute, who did I just bump off here?
You can find JP, but not here.
I think I just kicked Corey off.
Oh no!
Oh no, not Corey.
No, he's coming back on. He's coming back on here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think I bumped you off there.
You did. Oh, okay.
Yeah. JP is JP Karliak at Instagram, and he's got his website too. And I'm sure that if you go there, you'll find links to everything else in the world he's on. If you are you accepting students these days?
Yes, actually.
Okay. There's a contact for someone who here you've got someone who is teaching, but it's an adjunct to a real honest to God voice career, which is very important sometimes. I mean, there's a few exceptions to this, but generally speaking, a lot of the more predatory voice coaches I've seen around are not in that category. They don't have active voice careers, generally speaking. All right, now let's go here. you've all rotated like it's a big
Musical chair.
a square dance here. Kimberly is reachable at Kimberly Brooks 11 on Instagram, and you have to put a D in her name, their middle initial in, to get her on Twitter.
I didn't know when I started that would be confusing.
None of us
And
knew.
I didn't know, and I had to look my own handles up because I'm really bad about it. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. And Mr. Bailey is he's the same way. Any place you go on the internet, if you type in epic voice guy,
And
probably it's
That's a good
probably
one.
probably even on Pornhub, you'll find it. Whatever it is,
I hope not.
he is
Nobody
epic voice
wants to
guy
see that.
everywhere and such.
I only
And-
looped that one sex scene in that one show on Netflix.
I told people on one of these, there was actually a Playboy magazine video called, and I may have the title wrong. It's like something like The Art of Erotic Massage, The Art of Sensual Massage, and they booked this woman to come in and do the voiceover, a sexy voiceover, and she got there and found out that it was a Playboy video, and she was too professional to walk out. It's June Foray. It is Natasha without the accent, and there's June Foray saying naughty words about body parts.
Oh, that's glorious.
I need to put your dick clothes on.
And it's out of print. I'm very sure it's you can't order any place. I think I have the laser disc downstairs of it, but
She autograph it.
she was so professional
really.
she couldn't walk out on a booking, but somehow her agent didn't tell her
Oh,
what it was.
amazing.
Anyway,
I'm the voice of some
She's a
Euro
pro, though.
trash DJ. Oh God, I forget what his name is. Not Atomic Boy, but something like that. Nuclear Boy, something.
Fallout Boy.
G.
Anyway, but he's
Kenny G, JP.
No,
Holland
Ollie G.
somewhere.
Remember
G.
Borat's
But
first
anyway,
character?
lovely guy.
Oh yeah, Ollie G.
And oh my God, the scripts are like, how profane can you come up with? It's like let's see. I think I've thought of every the most offensive, disgusting profanities I can come up with. Hey, how about this? Okay. And I do that in that voice. It's funny. Actually, as far as I can tell, for that kind of a show, they're really good.
Man,
That's how
he's good at what he does. DJ.
Anyway, meantime, I am reachable at www.newsforme.com. All the webcasts I have done and panels are viewable there. If you want to take a look, this video that you're watching right now will repeat in the same place on YouTube. It'll also be available on YouTube ad infinitum, and it will be over on my site. Also there, I will announce future panels and the dates and things like that. That basically is our show here, folks. I want to thank all of you. I hope you enjoyed this as much as the people in the chat room seem to have enjoyed it. But the takeaways from this is that voice actors love being with other voice actors. They love the camaraderie. They are all pained that they are stuck working alone, except for Kari, who likes working alone, I think.
I like being alone, although I would love to work with any of you in person.
I feel like we need to do a Brady Bunch scene.
I know. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah. No.
I got an animated project coming up soon that I'm going to drag Kari into a studio to be on, and he's not going to say no to me because we speak the same language a lot about announcers and people like that.
Germs, gotta wait.
Yes. But it's not going to happen till the pandemic's over, so I think we'll record around the turn of the next century. Anyway, thank you all. Thank you in the chat room. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but you should only ask them a minimum of 8 times.
All right. 8 more times to go.
Yes.
Now I want to know what that question was.
Yeah, really.
Well, you'd be my Facebook friend, probably.
Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
You're all amazing. Thank you so much.
Love you. Bye.